Hi, I'm Guy Berry, Chief Operating Officer with Redirect Health, and this is the Optimistic American Book Club. Today's book is The Chief Executive Operating System by Joel Trammell and Sharif Shakir. And my guest today is Dr. David Berg, CEO and founder of Redirect Health. Dr. Berg, thanks for joining us today.
It's good to be here.
So we read the book, The Chief Executive Operating System, and what I found in this book, and I know you've read a lot of other books around Gino Wickman's EOS system or Vern Harnish's Scaling Up, I found this very similar in format to creating a system way of looking at a business. But what's your overall impression as you read this book?
What I found interesting is there's a lot of books, how-to books for operators. There's not a lot of how-to books for the chief executive officer, the person who's trying to lead and put it all together. And Dan Sullivan talks about the make it up, make it real, make it recur. So there's a lot of books and writing on the make it recur piece, how to make it happen every single day the same way with consistency. And there's not a lot of books like this that are trying to do the same thing, create a template for a CEO. Yeah. And I thought they did a good job. Now, there's some things as a CEO that are hard to put into a template, but the fact that you start there is a good thing, I believe.
Do you think a book can tell a CEO how to do a job?
It's probably better for a newer CEO, but there is an art to it for sure. And my favorite part of the book was when they talked about the style of a manager, management. They define management as telling somebody what to do, a leader telling them why to do it, and a coach telling them how to do it. I thought that was insightful to separate it. And the point that they made, I think they made it here, and I liked it because it's what I believe. So anything that confirms what you believe, you tend to like, it seems, was that it's not so much about doing one or the other. It's about integrating them together and knowing when to coach, when to lead, when to manage, and doing it in an artful way.
Yeah.
And there's lots of people that when we start learning, let's say music, we learn the chords, we learn the notes, we learn how to read the music, but we're not really playing music that anybody would probably like. But then it comes a little more natural and we learn how to play music. And it sounds kind of nice, or at least you can recognize it, but it might not stir the emotions that Beethoven might have done or somebody else. But then as we do it long enough, we figure out how to play music that creates emotion, the art of it. But it starts with knowing the notes. So I think this book was great with teaching us the notes and then how to put them together. But the CEO still got to create music.
Yeah, it's true.
And know when to play which note and how to play it and how to weight the notes.
Yeah. So the framework of the book, it goes into 3 sections: people, execution, and then self. And under people, he introduced 2 triangles. He calls them triangles of tension. The first triangle being the relationship between product, marketing, and sales. And then the second triangle being the relationship between customers, employees, and shareholders. And shareholders, he says that's really the CFO's job within that triangle. But he said those 2 triangles, really, that's the team of people that a CEO should find. I'd be curious, what was your thought of those triangles, or when you hear that, how does it relate to how you run a business?
Yeah, I liked how they simplified it: people, execution, people, and I liked how they included shareholders and the money and the financials as which would be the thing that the CFO would pay most attention to. So I liked how they separated it, and then I also liked how they spread it all out. What was missing to me, and maybe a little confusing too, is the role of the COO. There was a little disconnect for me, and I was wondering, where's the COO fit in this? And I don't think they were ever implying that a COO wasn't important or wasn't in this system.
Right.
But it was an obvious thing that was left out.
Yep.
And there wasn't always clear as to what the CEO was doing and the COO were doing.
Yep. He mentions having a user manual or common language. He uses DISC Clifton Strengths Finders. What have you seen when it comes to using tools like that? There's many others, so those aren't the only two out there. What have you seen when it comes to using those types of tools?
So, as you know, when a new leader starts, I take them for a day and I don't let anybody touch them. I don't let them fill out a piece of paper. I don't let HR talk to them. I don't let them get their computer, their keys. I want to get into their minds first, so that if they see something contradictory to what I say, I've already got the bias established that what I'm saying is what's going to go.
It's the vision. Yeah.
It's the vision. And part of that conversation is let them know, like, what gets the best, how do you get the best out of me? And what does my best behavior look like? And what does my worst behavior look like? And what are the triggers that'll make that happen? So it's in essence a user manual of how not to drive me crazy and how to get the best out of me. And what I liked about what they wrote in this operating system was the concept of putting it on paper, and not just me doing it with somebody, but everybody doing it. Everybody's got their own operating system. Everybody's got those things that will trigger them into their worst behavior. And we're all going to trigger the worst behavior out of the people we work with. It's about, can we identify and get out of it? How quick can we get out of it?
Right.
Some people don't get out of it for months.
Right.
Or a lifetime, and it's very dysfunctional. Other people get through it in 5 minutes, and they might have to muddle through it and figure it out, and it can look weird and clunky, but the fact that it only lasts 5 minutes tells you that you've got parties that are aware of the trigger and getting out of it. And I think you and I do that very well. You do that for me very well. When I've been triggered by you or somebody else, you're right away. We've known each other so long. You're right away. I'm going, Dave, I got this, and just helping me get out of it, because once you're triggered, it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah, it is.
And we've all got our own user manual that is quite often non-articulated, and it takes people that you know to realize that and to get us back on track. The concept of writing it down, I thought was intriguing.
Well, I mean, you look at technology. So you've got text messaging, instant messages through Teams or Slack. You've got email. You've got project boards, whether it's through Monday or Jira or any of these other softwares out there. There's a million things you could look at, get messaged, you have interactions, and certain people are going to say, hey, I like to just communicate in Teams. I like to give in text message. So there's value in telling somebody, how do I like communication?
Yeah, that's a good point too.
So that they don't feel frustrated when, hey, I've been sending you this, you're not replying. Well, I don't like communicating in that way.
That's a great point. And I didn't think about that when we were doing it, but we've worked together so long that I don't like long emails. I like the quick 5-minute email, phone call that says, hey, here are the facts. Here's what's going on. Here's what it means. Here's what I've done already. Here's what I'm thinking of doing. This is your chance to weigh in. Yep. And it's such a concise, and it's my style. Yep. And I'm sure that's happened through osmosis because we work together so well. Right. And I mean, you do it better than anybody else, that style. And from reading this book, I was able to say, okay, well, that's how I like it. Here's the data. Don't give me opinions or give me any meaning yet. Yep. Give me all the data first. Now give me the meaning, because I care about the meaning a lot. But I want to have a chance to create my own meaning of the data, the information, the evidence. And then tell me what the action, what's been done, what's being considered, what are you not sure of as far as action, next steps. But I like leaving the action after I've figured out what the evidence is and what the meaning is. And that's my style. Yeah. And that would go well into a user manual if I actually wrote one for myself. Right. Yeah. It'd be even better, because you seem to have figured me out so well, Guy. If you wrote that user manual for other people, sure. I'll bet you it'd be much better than anything I could write.
Love how you just tried to put that back on me. Great.
Oh, there's no try.
Okay. So let's talk the next section of the book. He goes into execution, and he brings up the power of vision. So the CEO's got to own the vision. Yeah. And I think I'd be curious, because Cameron Herold wrote the book Vivid Vision, and there's other things out there around vision statements and just how to look forward 5-10 years. What do you do to be successful when it comes to understanding the vision and putting it there?
Yeah, and Cameron Herold has been one of my best friends for a long time. And we've had so many conversations about vision and the importance of communicating it and living it and making it congruent with so many other things, the values and the mission. And so it's really hard for me to separate what I learned from him and what I figured out as I went. But one of the things I have learned about myself is that I am always looking for, detest waste, which is one of our biggest core values. Part of it is because me putting extra effort into something that I don't have to put extra effort into is a waste of my attention or my time or my money. And so that's my way of saying, now I've grown up, that I'm not lazy like my mom and others have said I was. But so it's about creating efficiency. And I find that by leading with vision, it creates really efficient results for me. And that means I got to be able to articulate it. And Dan Sullivan's impact filter, strategic coach's impact filter of what do I want to accomplish? Why is this important? What does it look like when it's done? This part of the project or the vision is done, and some things is never done because it's ongoing. And what does it look like if it doesn't work? What does it look like if it does work well? And what are the success criteria that have to be checked off as done every single time? And getting really clear before I try to share a vision with others. Can I sell myself on the vision that it's important? And can I lock it in so it's sustainable and it's going to be it's not going to start to get eroded as people start to interact with it and engage with the vision. I do not like vision eroding. I don't mind if it is intentionally improved, but I don't like it. You know me long enough to know that is a trigger for me when that vision gets eroded accidentally or unintentionally. So to lock it in with a vision document around the importance, I find that people find out the plan that'll get there better if I don't give them the plan. If I maybe give some strategic ideas that I'm thinking that will make it easier for them, or some fact patterns that I've discovered that will make it easier for them to get to the finish line. But I want that finish line to be really solid as far as timing and meaning and feeling and who are the stakeholders in the vision, and let people figure out how to get there. I mean, one of my triggers is when people cannot remember the vision or won't write down the vision, and it morphs into something that was never what it was intended to be. And so I find vision being the thing that just makes it easier to lead, and it also allows me to not have to manage. If I have to manage, I will. I'm not a really good manager because I don't have the patience for management. It can come across very bossy. It can come across, just do this right now. I don't want to explain it. So I'm not a good manager. I'm not a patient manager. I'm a much better leader than I am a manager. With the right energy, enough sleep, and enough peace in the day, I can be a really good coach too. But my go-to move is here's the finish line. Can you help me get here? What are the obstacles in the way of this? Is this timeline right?
Right.
And Chris Voss has some great negotiating tools with Never Split the Difference. And one of the things he talks about is very powerful is to ask no questions. So ask a question that, do you think you can get this done, Guy, by Tuesday at noon? You're always going to say yes. But there can be real yeses and counterfeit yeses and confirmatory, yes, I think I can, doesn't mean you're going to, or you're committing to it. But then follow up with another question. Are there any obstacles you can think of right now that are going to be insurmountable and you think might get in the way? That's a no answer. Right. You start with a yes and a no. Those are just some tricks I've learned to just get the vision there so I don't have to create the plan. Yeah. And I'd much rather, I know just that no plan is going to work the first time. Yep. So the person making the plan has to be able to identify that it's not getting them where they want them to go and adjust the plan. It's a normal part of getting things done.
Yeah. And as he goes into people, there was something in the book that really stuck with me. Is he's got a section on partying on good terms. Okay, so
that probably sounded familiar to me.
It did, and we in our company use the term momentum, creating good momentum. That when somebody leaves the company, nobody benefits. Right, on the life cycle of an employee, if it goes down to the bottom and we've got to separate, nobody benefits from just a messy separation. So how do we create a good separation, a way where they feel positive? We're supporting them in their next move. Where did that come from with you? I'd be
Okay, so
curious.
you use the word how, which means how do you coach somebody to make that happen? I don't know. I don't. That's not the method I use to make it happen. But you've seen it happen so many times where somebody has left us, and it could be adversarial, or it's just they feel it's sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes not a good thing. Sometimes we feel good about it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes they feel good, sometimes we don't. So for me, it's not about telling somebody what to do, managing them. It's not about telling somebody how to do it, coaching them how to do it, though those are both important. I would much rather cast the vision that success looks like that person that's leaving is going to continue to buy from us if they're a patient. They're going to continue to ask us for advice. They're going to continue because they're going to continue to update us on their life. They're going to continue to ask us if we want to do a deal with them, invest money with them, whatever that is. So that's the finish line. And whatever it takes to get there is going to be different for every single person, but the finish line is the same. And even having this mindset that it's a relationship, and relationships change. There was a time where with my little brother, who we were much closer because we slept in the same darn bed. Right. We saw each other every single day. And then now he lives further away and we can go a quarter, 6 months and not talk, but then pick it up right away. Relationships change. It doesn't mean that they end. It doesn't mean it's good or it's bad. They wax and they wane. And that's how I think about it with people who, if somebody's worked with us for a while and we part ways, there was a time where we really liked each other a lot. There's that quality that was there that made me like them is still there. It's just something else is going on in their life. The timing's different. We need a different level of expertise. The company doesn't have the resources it needs right now. Quite frankly, I would say that the majority of the parting of ways that's happened where I'm the leader is because my leadership is not good enough at this moment in time. There are really good people that we parted ways with for no other reason than I wasn't evolved enough as a leader to manage, to cast vision well enough for their style or to manage their activities or to coach them on how to do things. As I've gotten better at it, many people I thought of, wow, I'm much better at leading them and participating in a relationship now after we're done because I'm a better leader, manager, coach.
Yep. And do you think that came from practice, like over years, or like did you get better at it?
I've had a lot of really good mentors. And I mentioned Cameron Harold. I mentioned Chris Voss. I've mentioned Dan Sullivan. Howard Getson's another one that comes out. Vern Harnish is the probably one of the first. And these are really, really strong people. Peter Diamandis. Oh my gosh! I mean, these people think at a different level, and they're very, very generous with their time and with their attention and with their advice. I mean, I've never seen one of them, if somebody asks for advice, don't jump right into it. And so I've been just very, very fortunate to be around people like that. And Paul was very helpful to me when I first moved here. He had just finished being mayor of Phoenix. I was brand new from Canada to here, and I was just starting a practice with my wife, and I hadn't a clue what I was doing. And we had some initial success, and I think it was I just crossed. I was out having just a meal with him at a local pub, and he was asking about the business. I said, I just crossed the $1 million mark. And he was like, stood up and made a big deal about it and gave me a high five and go, you know how rare that is? And of course, I'm so much into the mess. I thought I was screwing up all over the place, right? I could think of 100 places I was screwing up and I was going to miss that milestone. Yeah. Just the fact that he wouldn't let me miss it. And just, and when I had challenges or trying to understand whatever it is. I mean, I'm new to the country. And he was very, very helpful. So that mentorship was very important to the business, but so are all the other people. So when you asked about, like, what did I do? I mean, if I had to distill it to something, I think I'm really good at pulling out the greatness, the mastery out of the people around me, and then applying it, making things up, finding people, encouraging them to help me make it real, and then finding somebody who will make it recur and not need me when it does.
So there's power in business owners, entrepreneurs, and having good mentors.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it comes more natural to the entrepreneur because we don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
We don't have the choice. There's not a playbook. There's not a manager who can teach us. There's not who can tell us what to do. There's people who can share experiences they've had, but then we got to figure it out.
Right.
It's very few situations I've seen. I don't want to say very few, but it's not the majority where somebody will say, "Oh, this is I had exactly the same situation, so do exactly this. Here's the recipe. Here's the book." No, it's like 10 people sharing experiences, and you got to put it together. Mm-hmm. So the mentorship is around that, but also the mentorship is around just having confidence that you're not going crazy, that it's worthy. It's a worthy endeavor, and also a lot of times what my mentors have done for me, or people who have mentored me, is they've helped me recognize that, that you might go to business here.
Yeah.
So what? Do it again. It doesn't matter.
It's a roller coaster.
It is a roller coaster. It's expected to be that way, and sometimes you'll go to the bottom, but do you think it'll take just as long to get back to the top? No. You can't lose that knowledge. You can't lose that confidence.
It's a roller coaster, but it can have a trajectory still going up. The other thing that I'll point out just under the execution that I really liked in this book is he brought in the relationship of growth and profitability. So talking about, how do you use those, but then added to it forecasting and then capital resources. So it was really about predicting, okay, am I in growth mode or am I in profitability mode? What am I trying to be in? And then from there saying, okay, then now I can predict what do I want to forecast. Knowing what I want to forecast, now what capital resources do I need, meaning outside money, other things to help me with the business. I liked that relationship of all those moving pieces. What do you see there, and what have you seen that's helped with business when you look at those types of pieces?
Well, I will tell you that when I read the book, I realized what a poor job I've done in communicating. We are in profit mode. We are in growth mode to the team. Where I might say it. I might tell you. I might tell a few other people, but I haven't told the organization.
Yeah.
And so I recognize the power in letting the organization know that these are two modes, and let's pick one or the other. And it's okay if we want to pick a mixture, but let's define it. Like how much growth, how much profit.
Yep.
And the other thing that I've recognized for a long time, and had conversations with the people who've mentored me, is Vern Harder said recently, is just feeling like I don't know how to manage the finances from a high level. Like if I have to bring in capital, it's not something I feel natural with, not something I feel confident with, or natural or confident. And I would much rather lose my $1 million than lose your $10. And that's not helpful as a CEO who just wants to do big things and needs capital and needs to include others. It's just not an area that I'm comfortable with. And it made me realize, it made me think about just the importance of being well-rounded. Again, if you want to play the music really, really effectively, you can't just, as a CEO, you can't leave one part out. You can't ignore that part that you're not confident in. You got to step into that discomfort, which is what, as you're aware, we're doing right now. We're stepping into that discomfort and looking for strategic partners that will help us with capital and growth and resources and technology, et cetera.
When you look at the overall finances and let's talk just growth mode, right? How do you help when you're in growth mode and you're now either losing money or breaking even because you want to put it into growth? How do you, I could feel a fear in myself. If it was me, I would have a fear that I'd go, hey, I got to pull back. I don't like that I'm losing money or whatever, so I got to pull back, which then now halts my growth. Yeah. How do you hold to that? If you've picked that as your choice, how do you hold to it?
So there's difference between profit and cash flow.
Yep.
Right. So cash flow can come from other sources, can come from savings, can come from borrowing from your mom, can come from a credit card, can come from a loan, can come from investors. So that's cash flow. And then there's profitability. And so growth is about investment. It's about putting money somewhere where you're not going to get the result right now. And it could come from profits, and then it'll decrease profits if it's an expense. or it could come from savings or investor money or loans, things like that. And then it's about investing in the growth, the new thing. So we're building some things today that aren't going to create profits right now, but they're going to definitely make our product better.
Right.
Right. Think about the impact accountability or the impact together project, where we're crowdsourcing the help our members need, financial, non-financial, and then they can create their own communities and tell their mom and their coworkers and strangers what kind of help they need, whether it's $50 for the doctor's copay or a drive to the doctor, non-financial, financial. And we get that data and we attach it to our foundation that we can donate to. And then we can look at the data and distribute the funds where it's going to have the greatest impact. That's why it's called Impact Together for our members. None of that I just mentioned is anything but an investment right now.
Yeah.
It's not helping cash flow.
We're making money, right? It's not. It's a bigger purpose.
It's a bigger purpose to make our
purpose.
product better, so that it becomes a stepping stone for the next thing. And maybe it helps us raise money better because we've created better quality. But so it's not just about just profit or just growth. I've never thought it was good to do just one or the other, where it's all about growth and who cares about profit. And we've tried that before. It wasn't all that. When it did happen in Redirect Health, it wasn't. I wasn't weighing in with my preference as much as I might today. Similarly, it's not all about profit. It's we've never been in a situation where we're not trying to improve our product, go to another market, bring in another partner, create another product. We've just never done that. So I don't think we'll ever stop. It's just about where we're putting the weight, where we're putting the focus.
Yep. So he says these are the essential skills of a CEO. I'm going to read these, and then you tell me, when you hear these, what do you think of as yourself as a CEO? So his essential skills for a CEO are authentic and transparent communication, holding people accountable, curiosity, decision making, productivity, and awareness. And he says it's really about understanding how various pieces of this and the skills of a CEO. So when you hear some of these, what comes to mind as you as a CEO?
Go through them one at a time.
Let's
for
do
me.
it. Authentic and transparent communication.
Are you sure you want me to answer how I think I do?
Yeah. What do you think is?
How do I measure up against that?
Yeah.
I think if I have a challenge, it's because I'm authentic too many times.
There you go.
When I'm upset,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to see it in my face. You're going to see me in my voice. I'm going to start to interrogate. I want to get to the bottom of it. I don't feel good. I want to end it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many times, most times, even my kids, I'm done. I go, oh my gosh, was that worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Did I get enough information out of that
Mm-hmm.
that was worth the aftermath of people feeling interrogated? So if anything, I think I'm probably too authentic with my drive to get to an answer, my drive to keep forward momentum.
Yeah.
Other times when I'm on top of my game, I can be very authentic with it, and it becomes believable, where other people, it's not believable when they say they're going to do X, Y, Z.
There's a part of authentic and transparent, though, that some people, you got to be vulnerable. That's hard at times, I would say. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how about holding people accountable?
The right people. Yeah, there's some people I just no interest in holding them accountable. So if I've got smart people, very thoughtful people who really care about the mission, and this is the top of their mind, they've got a lot of their basic needs met. Mm-hmm. They're not worried about rent. They're not worried about their kids' safety. They're not worried about their car breaking down. They're not worried about those things.
Yep.
It's very easy for me to hold people accountable, right? When I've got peers, when we're on a common mission, and there's an agreement, there's an expectation to hold each other accountable. That's quite easy. Where I found that it's much better for me to have other people is when I've got somebody who's got other things happen in their life that I did too, and I understand it, but I might be 20 years beyond it.
Yeah.
Right? Worrying about car breaking down, or worrying about rent, or worrying about, and maybe it's a new new marriage, and trying to figure it out, or somebody just had their first kid. Right? I'm 26 years away from having my first kid. And so I still remember it, and I remember how it impacts other things, and there's other things to think about. It's a lot harder for me as I get older to hold younger people accountable when I recognize how hard their lives might be right now. Than if I get somebody a little bit older and smarter, more of a peer to me.
Slightly removed from it. And
Yeah. And it's important for me to recognize and be aware of it, so that I'm not jumping there trying to hold somebody accountable who just had a new baby and hasn't slept all night, and recognize that I gave them too much. I put them in a position where they didn't have the necessary resources to do it.
Yep. Okay. Curiosity.
Oh my gosh.
Got to be curious.
Yeah. I
I mean, especially with technology and how fast it's going.
ChatGPT is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
oh my gosh.
If you're not a curious
talk
CEO,
about a curiosity scratcher.
Yeah.
Oh, that itch is so easy to solve an itch right now with ChatGPT loaded up and on your phone. You're just talking to it, and you just keep talking to it, and it never ends. And it's YouTube's like that too. I like going to YouTube and figuring out the key phrases. And then just there's all kinds of bunny holes there, but ChatGPT is a game changer.
Yeah, and
as far as being curious and scratching that itch.
And I think CEOs, with where technology is today, you need to be curious right now.
Yeah,
I mean, this isn't a time to just.
I'm becoming more curious.
Yeah,
because it's so easy to be curious now.
Yeah,
and if I go back 20 years, it was hard to be curious.
Yep.
Yeah, before the internet, oh my gosh, you were curious, you were creating yourself a whole lot of work.
Yeah.
Because you had to go to the library, you had to go ask somebody, you had to go meet with somebody, you had to pick up a phone, talk to somebody. There's a lot of work to be curious 20 years ago. Today, it's so simple to be curious. I just find that there's no end to it, and it's entertaining.
Yep. And then decision making is next, and one of the things the author has brought up before is. I believe it was Colin Powell that he'll quote at times, and talks about that Colin Powell had a 40-70, meaning if I have 40 to 70% of the information, I make a decision, knowing that if I make it before the 40, I've made it too fast. If I've made it after the 70, I've waited too long. So it's finding the sweet spot. I'm curious, what do you think of when it comes to decision making as a CEO? How do you imply, moving quick, balancing quick with being, relatively have enough information?
So first thing I say is Colin Powell is a super smart man, and I don't believe that that's what he did. I believe that's what he said to make it simple and to talk about here's how you play this note.
Yeah.
But Colin Powell could play music.
Yeah.
And he could move people with that music. So I know he did more than that.
Yeah.
So there's nuance to it. It's
Sure.
about situational. And Stephen Johnson wrote a book called Farsighted, I think. And it's about decision making. And he talks about decisions, my words, not his, I'm paraphrasing, but decisions that are reversible and irreversible. Like the consequence is high, their consequences are low. Do you have a backup system? Do you not?
Yep.
Right. And he uses the example of when President Obama was making decisions around Osama bin Laden and going into Afghanistan. They did not know for sure he was there. They estimated it was 50-50. And there was a chance they were going to, it was Pakistan, that they were going to really bother Pakistan. So they were creating a lot of simulation about the building they thought maybe 50-50 that Osama bin Laden would be in, but if they were wrong, it was going to destroy the relationship with Pakistan. So they created some supply routes through, I think, Russia to get to Afghanistan as a backup plan. So there's a situation where it was different. It was a little more nuanced, and that was an example, as Stephen Johnson wrote in the book Farsighted, about just these, and he did a great job of categorizing decisions, better than I'm going to do right now. It's been so long since I've read the book. There's another book called Decision Traps that I've loved. That one I read when I was quite young. I'm going to say in my 20s, so it's got to be written in the 90s. And my point is, I've been just a student my whole life of decision making, and there's so much nuance to it, and there's an art to it.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean it always works, but do you have a backup plan or not? You've probably heard me say I love it when Plan B works.
Right.
I mean, because we had one, right? I loved even more when Plan C works.
Right.
Because we had one. We had the discipline to have it in that situation.
Okay, so productivity is his next skill. And I'd be curious with productivity, you get a lot of things thrown at you. How do you stay productive knowing where to allocate your time or your resources, only one person?
So it's less a personal thing. It's more a business thing. So when I think about productivity, I don't think about how do I stay productive. I don't go there. But I do think about how does our company stay productive? How does Redirect Health stay productive for the sake of our clients and the sake of our employees and the sake of our shareholders, the people, right? So productivity to me is about serving the people. So the shareholder, the customer, ourselves, in a way where with a certain level of energy or resources, we get the quality or the benefit or the money out of it. And it could be something as simple as a decision. Where I remember once we were in one of our clinics, we were short parking spots. Because we create so much efficiency inside the office, we could get way more customers and doctors into per square foot by like double that anyone else in the country was doing. So we're super efficient. Well, what did that do to our parking spot? That it destroyed our parking. Yeah. So we had become more efficient at our parking and productive. That productivity meant we had to be more productive, efficient in the parking lot. So we had to, if you remember, we put customer parking there and stencils in their best parking spots so people could get in and out really fast and not take up the parking spot any longer than they had to. Well, we then learned that patients would come in and not identify as customers and go, hey, is it okay I parked in customer parking?
Right.
So we had to like black it out and put patient parking.
Right.
We made a mistake. They identified as patients. We wanted them to identify as customers because we wanted to let them know they were in charge, but they didn't. They rejected it, and we put patient parking. So there's an example of us playing the music, right? It's not about stenciling the parking lot. It's not about being right. We were wrong. It's not about just being more people per square foot or more doctors per square foot or more exam rooms per square foot or more throughput through square foot than anybody. Those are all the notes. But to play the music, we had to put it all together, and we had to figure it out as we went. And then once we figured it out, now we could make it recur for decades afterwards. So we made it up. We had to adjust. We had to make it real, and then we made it recur. That's how I think of productivity. I don't think about it as me being more productive because everything I just told you could take me 20 hours or 20 seconds.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about the company.
That's good. And last key trait, awareness. When you hear that, what do you think of as a CEO?
I think that's multifaceted. So I know that in the book it was about aware of yourself, but I think a good way of being aware of yourself is be aware of your surroundings too, and the people around you, and how they're feeling, how they're performing, what else is going on in their life, what they can handle, and the awareness that I think is really, really important for a CEO to have is as we're leading people, we're leading them into a place where we know everybody's going to be uncomfortable. The shareholders are going to be a little bit uncomfortable. Our employees are going to be a little uncomfortable. If we're building things, changing things, our customers are going to be a little uncomfortable. You're always going to have people saying, can't we just leave it alone? Can't we just leave it? It's good, working really well right now. Don't change it. And then next thing you know, 2 years later, we're steamrolled by AI.
Yeah.
What happened?
Right.
So we know that's going to happen. So the awareness is about what level of discomfort can all those parties take, in my mind. And I just saw that. I saw a quote somewhere. I do not remember where it was, but it really resonated with me along this topic. It was of being aware of how much discomfort somebody can handle or constituent can handle, and the idea, the conceptual, the idea, the picture, mental picture for me was just give them one spoonful more discomfort than they can handle today. Not a bucket. Don't hit them with all of it. Just so making here's one spoonful. So that means everybody's a little bit uncomfortable, including myself, but we're used to being uncomfortable. It's a constant, always uncomfortable, one spoonful at a time. Always one, not a bucket. That'll wear people out, burn them out. And we've all been, both of you and I have been next to each other. We've been in situations where, man, this is a lot more than a spoonful right now. Yeah. We got to figure this out fast because we can't sustain what we're going through right now for even a month, maybe even a week. We got to get it down. So, but we can take a spoonful of discomfort every day. Yeah. We would probably feel a little weird if we didn't have it.
got to have something that
We
gives you a
go,
little
we go,
edge
what
or
the hell
what's
am I
going on?"
missing? What the hell am
Yep.
I missing right now? This is not this good.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's how I think about awareness. That's how I think of it.
Yep.
Is being aware of myself. Am I giving somebody more than that spoonful of discomfort? Am I giving them not enough? All right. So and a lot of it has to do with me and recognizing what people can take, where their mindsets are at that moment, and knowing it's situational, and also recognizing when I've got different plays. I mean, when I play golf, when I was younger, I just had one golf swing, one way of playing. Now I'm 59 years old. If I have a lot more, I have a swing for the first 6 holes, a swing for the second 6 holes, and a swing for the last 6 holes because my body is tight, then it loosens up, and then it's sore. And I didn't have that when I was 20 years ago. So I've had to be aware of, okay, what swing, what mindset will work best for this part of my golf game. The same when I'm working with myself. There's times I don't sleep well. There are times where I do, times where I didn't eat well, or I've got other stresses in my life. So I've got to recognize myself. How am I going to show up today? Am I going to be my best? I know I'm going to do my best today, but I might do my best today might be terrible compared to what I could do yesterday.
Yeah.
And so recognizing what level of discomfort I can handle today as I'm sharing discomfort with others is an important part of awareness. So most of my awareness is around that concept of discomfort that I can handle and other people can handle, because I want to move forward. I'm a momentum junkie. There is no doubt.
Yep. So with all that, the book last section ends with self as the CEO, and he talks about mindfulness. He talks about reframing stress, and positioning your mind at the stress you're looking at in a different way, so it's positive versus negative. And then he talks about 3 categories of energy, work, and love, and balancing the 3 between those. What do you do for self, or what do you see that CEOs or other people do for self that you're finding that you see them being successful at? Because I will say this, even as a chief operating officer, self is important, because you're going to take on a million tasks. And so if you're not figuring out how to find that balance and find success in your own mind, you're not going to, you can have burnout or other things, right? He uses a term that, like, success is not the same as fulfillment, which was an interesting phrase for me. So what do you think of when you hear all that, or just what have you seen that creates success with that?
Yeah, I hear this balance word a lot, and I've coached a lot of entrepreneurs who are starting up, and they pulled the trigger, they spent money, now they're trying to pay the bills, and so I hear it a lot of them trying to balance it, especially when they're new entrepreneurs. That's a common theme. And they've asked me that question a lot. I've been asked so many times. And I don't know the answer I've given them is satisfying. I don't know if it'll be satisfying to you, but I reject the concept of balance. I want to integrate all those things together and have one life that works for me. I'm not going to balance it and say, okay, this is just work. This time's just for work. This time's just for family. This time's just for things that are fun. This is for my career. That's not my style. There's other people that claim they can do it. I frankly have not really seen one, but there's a lot of people that claim that they've done it, but they always seem to be trying to do it than they've actually done it. And I think we romanticize about that balance more than we actually do it. But I've met many people who have figured out how to integrate their work life with their family life, with their career, with their personal versus all that stuff. That is an approach that gives me a lot more peace. The concept of balancing. Right now I'm going to be a good dad. Right now I'm going to be a good CEO. Right now I'm going to be a good husband. Man, that is stressful as heck for me, and I don't like it.
It's how you integrate all of those. How can you be a good dad, a good husband, a good CEO, but do it all together at
right?
once?
And you know what that looks like when you've got 8-year-old and 11-year-old is you're asking them advice on your business. Or your 8-year-old's going, hey, what about Dr. So-and-so? What do you mean? Well, I think you should be looking into them, because I was listening to the intercom that's at home, and people don't seem real happy with them today. right? That's what it looks like when you integrate in your family, is your 8-year-old's calling you out because you don't know that you're having trouble with Dr. Jones.
Yeah.
And you probably have to have a talk with somebody because I picked up something on the intercom today when I was doing my homework at your desk, right? That's what it looks like. And it's weird. And other people, I've seen it go too far. I've seen it work better, really well, more than I've seen it go too far. Now you talk to my kids, they might tell you something different. Talk to my wife, you might hear something different. But for me personally, an integrated life is much, much better and peaceful than a balanced life.
Like it.
Maybe we're splitting hairs on the words.
I think it fits fine.
Yeah. You've known me long enough to know that if we get together for a meal, it's not going to be that much different than sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Or we get on the golf course, it's not going to be that much different than sitting here right now, or going through a mess, or going through, something fun.
Well, and I would say that it would be a challenge, even for myself, to say that I'm going to go home and I'm going to be with my wife or with my kids, and I will never think about work. It's not going to happen, right? Like I'm never going to think about it. I'm just going to think about them. Versus, I know I'm going to think about work, but how can I make sure I'm intentional and present in some of the moments I am with them while I'm also thinking about work or doing other stuff? So an example of that for me would be, I'm at home. Okay, I know I want to call Dave on something, or I want to call Mike on something, but I know they're about to go into the shower. So let me spend these next 20 minutes intentional with them, make sure I feel the love with them. So as soon as they're in the shower, I'll go make that call, and then I'll come back out and get them out of the shower. Like, there's ways you can balance it around each other that I find works for me.
And it also takes just making sure that there's enough trust there that if I got something really important and worrying the heck out of me, and I'm not going to sleep tonight, and I call you and you don't answer the phone, I can't be reading into it, oh, he's avoiding me right now.
Yeah.
Right? I've got to give you the benefit of the doubt, and just finding, and if you do the same thing for me, I mean, I'm recognizing, okay, I wonder if this is important or not. I hope I'm going to get to him before the end, as soon as I can. And I might leave dinner, pretend I have to go to the bathroom.
Sure.
And just make a quick call.
Yeah.
just to check in, and or to even pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm busy. Is just something quick, or can I call you back when I'm done? Right. There's something to give that confidence, so that you can move on. And again, it's an integration of what's important to you and what's important to me.
Yep.
What's important to you is integrated into my life.
Yeah.
And many other people too.
And I like the phrase, be intentional with the outcome you want, right? And I'm intentional
I like that
in
too.
What is the outcome I want with my family and my work and whatever. And I could have the same outcome. I just want to, I want everything to work around and be together. So I can be intentional in the outcome that my family feels loved, that people feel valued at the workplace, and I can be intentional in my energy. And they all actually do integrate. So it's interesting how you put that, because if I'm not focused on my own energy, exercise, sleeping well, eating right, if I'm not focused on that, that spills over into work and into my family. So all three, and if I'm not paying attention to work because I'm just done with it, or I'm stressed or whatever, my family feels it, and my energy level probably goes down, right? They actually all play on each other.
Yeah, they do. When I first really became aware of this concept of integration, or not like compartmentalizing, how that can actually create a worse situation, is in our about 20 years ago or more, probably more than that, in a clinic, I observed one of our very best employees at the front desk interacting with somebody, a patient, customer, and doing such a great job. And I was just sitting there in the waiting room like I did, and I was just observing. I go, wow, this person is like on fire. I've never seen this kind of caring and like the perfect words. And she sounded so smart. I was in awe how well she was doing. And then somebody else walked up, and she didn't acknowledge that person for a second and a half, 2 seconds, not long. And then finish this conversation and then say, yes, can I help you? And it just seemed off. Like it wasn't congruent with how good she was. And then as I'm watching and becoming aware of like what makes a great interaction, I saw other people who weren't as good at the first interaction, But where they're excellent is they would acknowledge that person right away. As they're working with the first person, they would acknowledge the second person. And I saw what I perceived as the first person feeling better because they saw how well the second person was treated. And I saw that, again, the music, right? How it made me feel. So even though that person at the desk wasn't as good or talented as the first person I mentioned, the second person created better music for me because I didn't have that cringe. Because for a second and a half, 2 seconds, I'm going, oh, this person feels ignored. The second person feels ignored. I don't like that. Like that, it threw me off. It threw me off the experience I was have, that great experience with the first person. Second person, like being able to integrate the two people together, that was a much better musical feeling to me. And that was the first time I started thinking about, this concept of focus isn't always a good thing if it's too much. Focus on just being a dad, focus on just being at work, just being at home. Maybe not.
Right.
Maybe not. There's a music needs to be played, and it's that integration that made sense to me. That's when in the early days when I was starting to just figure out business and figure out the customer service, figure out the United States of America. It was so different than Canada.
Yeah.
And there were things in Canada that I brought here, like that feeling. Somehow we have this reputation of being overly polite in Canada, and there was an element that made me say, I don't like how we're treating each other.
Yeah.
In little tiny ways like that.
Yep. Great. Well, thank you for being here today. I hope you enjoyed reading the book, and thank you for being a guest.
I did. You know what I enjoyed more about reading the book is knowing that you had read the book.
There you go.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I still am curious. So if you find out like what the role of a COO is, let me know.
I don't think you need one, I guess.
Is that what that means?
I guess, yeah.
Or maybe it means that the COO can be the CEO and you don't need the CEO.
Maybe so.
Maybe there's a message there.
More to
you're trying
come.
give me.
More to come.
Okay. Thank
Thanks,
you.
man. Thank you for listening and watching our book club today. Again, the book was The Chief Operating System. This was written by Joel Trammell and Sharif Shakir. The book's based out of, the authors are in Austin, Texas. Really enjoyed this book. It actually is a connection to one of our previous books that we did, The Manager's Playbook. Hope you enjoyed listening today. As always, please like, subscribe, give us comments, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for joining the Optimistic American Show. Now help us grow by subscribing to our channel. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a like and a comment. There is so much more that we have planned. We can't wait for you to embark upon this journey with us.